It's a pleasure to be here today to introduce the gentleman who's sitting next to me, Tlotlo Nkwe. That was a little bit harder than any Malton name, so. He's lived a fascinating life. Growing up in Botswana, not an easy place to come to the realization that you're gay. It wasn't until he visited his sister in England, where she was at university, that he actually felt comfortable coming out to someone. And it was his sister who he first revealed that to. He returned to Botswana, where he still didn't feel comfortable coming out to his family, where he finished university, went to New York, and started working in the banking field. It was then that he had his feet under him, and he felt comfortable with his financial situation, that he came out to his parents. His way of dealing with the situation and helping others is through business, a common language spoken in every country. That's what he's here to talk about, how through business he can help his community. TK.
Thank you. Funny enough, not funny really, I also had the same horrible locker room incident happen to me in high school back in Botswana, which is my home country, and along with 70 other countries worldwide, such as Malaysia and India, homosexual acts are illegal. A lot of companies also look at these same countries for growth opportunities, which could result in much needed investments to drive socio-economic development. On the other hand, if you look at regions like Europe and the Americas, you'll find countries with large economies seen as top destinations for top-skilled workers and successful businesses. LGBT rights are also protected in these markets, with marriage equality in places such as the UK and the US. South Africa stands out as the most inclusive and advanced economy in Africa. With respect to the other non-inclusive countries, there's an opportunity here, especially given those countries in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East are the most obvious path for global business expansion. To help facilitate this, an LGBT-inclusive environment would be beneficial, and it could result in a far less challenging operating environment for multinational companies and new opportunities for economic growth and investments in those same countries. There has been growing evidence at showing the business and economic case for LGBT inclusion by various groups. One of which Standard Charter is working with, the Open for Business Coalition, is a coalition of global businesses operating across all regions. The coalition did research and consultations. Their findings illustrating the impact of LGBT inclusion can be viewed from an individual, business, and overall economic perspective. Firstly, LGBT inclusion improves an individual's productivity. I used to have a constant sense of worry for not being accepted for my previous jobs in Botswana. I found it distracting. And according to the 30% of respondents surveyed by Human Rights Campaign study, I wasn't alone. Efforts are spent in covering for your behavior rather than spending it 100% on doing the best job you can do for your company. And for the 35% of LGBT employees who, after coming out, reported an upswing in their productivity to a survey by the Center of Talent Innovation in the UK, they're right. You can contribute more. You can contribute more at work and in your communities without fear of discrimination. It should be a state of being for everybody. Secondly, businesses may benefit from offering an LGBT-inclusive working environment, as they're opening themselves up to a wider pool of talent whom they can retain. With the best performing talent, a company's performance may improve. Early in my career, I found myself in a workplace where homophobic remarks were commonplace, and they were okay. I felt unsafe and unwelcome. I felt there was no prospect of professional growth, so I started looking elsewhere, paying close attention to company policies on their website as I did that, as I'm sure many of us here do. LGBT support from top management and well-publicized non-discriminatory policies explicitly including sexual orientation, are a must if companies are to have the best workforce generating shareholder value for them. Make these policies applicable for all business locations. These could influence community leaders, including national leaders in civic society, without violating the local laws. Thirdly, LGBT inclusion often supports economic growth. A productive workforce means that you'll have better company performance, which rolls up to enhanced economic output. The correlation between inclusion and economic output has been seen to be as high as 0.72 according to the global map of homophobia. Additionally, the Global Index on LGBT recognition of homosexual orientation defined about 8 LGBT rights, and for each of them that are seen to be adopted by a country can contribute an additional $1,400 per capita income for a country. These findings should be of interest to national leaders, especially those in Africa where LGBT rights continue to persist. The violations in LGBT rights, that is. In my role as Standard Charter's LGBT committee, I'm working with Open for Business to bring together 23 global companies who have funded research to evidence the business case for LGBT inclusion. The coalition is committed to create more inclusive communities within their companies and the countries where they operate. The conversation with national leaders has begun starting in Washington, D.C., with over 100 national, civic, and corporate leaders at the launch of the report. And we'll be continuing in places like Southern Africa, where Randy Berry has already begun the conversations with government, civic, and NGO leaders. National leaders should create an inclusive environment, encouraging companies to invest in their countries without threat to company cultures. Failure to realize the economic advantages of LGBT inclusion by leaders is doing a massive disservice to their people. There is a clear case to move towards LGBT inclusion for both governments and businesses. You, me, the global community acting as one in business and with local stakeholder engagement should act to demand our national leaders to understand the economic and human imperative and stop marginalizing large segments of their populations. Thank you.